ROADHOG becomes a main tank, and his take a breather now emits a large gas cloud around him that mitigates damage for everybody inside it. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel. Now, that's not just some made-up madness. That is actually going to hit the experimental play card today, so we will be able to check that out today. However, in this video, I want to break down a post that Jeff and Heiberg from the Overwatch team put onto the official website, breaking down the decision to actually put triple damage into the experimental card. Now, there's also some nice tidbits of information in this, which we will go over in this video. However, I don't think I agree with Jeff. Jeff makes an analogy between ice cream and different flavors of ice cream and the different roles within Overwatch. And this is what he says, and I really don't agree with this, and I'll explain why after I read this off. Is one of your goals to get more people to play tank? Jeff says, not necessarily. This is how I've been thinking about it. Imagine we're an ice cream store and we have 3 flavors of ice cream. We have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. And you have to line up for all 3 flavors separately. So imagine the vanilla line is way longer than the chocolate or the strawberry line. I feel like it's the wrong philosophy to ask, what can we do to convince the vanilla people to like strawberry more? It makes more sense to say, we need more vanilla ice cream. Now, I'll tell you why this is a really bad analogy. This is just talking about DPS players. DPS are the ice cream of Overwatch, right? And yes, there might be more vanilla flavored DPS, I guess, like, let's say Genji, Tracer. I don't know. Let's just pretend that they're the most popular heroes. And then a hero like Symmetra and Torbjorn, they're sort of the chocolate flavor that not as many people want. I think a better way to look at Overwatch is like a balanced diet, because you need crucial components in your team to make it work, much like you need your veg, you need your, complex carbs, you need your junk food every now and again in an actual balanced diet to be healthy. So I think a way of looking at this is the tanks are the vegetables. You kind of need them, else you're not going to win, right? And you're going to feel pretty bad if you don't have them, but they're not exactly the best tasting flavor in the game. The next thing we've got is DPS, and the DPS are they are your junk food. They are your fizzy soft drinks. They're your chocolate bars, your sweets, your candy. They are the thing everybody wants, but you just can't have too many of them, as it's actually going to feel kind of bad, which could mean, that actually having triple DPS is maybe not the solution. But anyway, that's just going off my insane analogy. So then what would support be? Well, support might be your vitamins or your, I don't know, your fatty acids or your complex carbs. The point I'm trying to make is you need all 3 of these to actually form a team comp. So Jeff just talking about ice cream flavors, I don't know. I don't think this is a very good analogy. In fact, I think this is actually kind of bad. Jeff is joined by Heiberg as well, one of the principal game designers for Overwatch, and he says this: when we rolled out our role queue with 2 damage, 2 support, and 2 tank players per team, we ended up with a lot more damage players in queue than tanks and supports. Now, this should come as no shock to them, to be honest, guys, because they've got a game called World of Warcraft that Jeff was heavily involved with, and this game, well, there's a lot of people that play DPS, so when they use their LFG system, which is basically their competitive matchmaking, if you will, to get into dungeons and to raids, if you're a damage dealer, it takes a long time to get into these groups because, well, there's loads of damage dealers, there's loads of damage dealing classes and specs, whereas supports or healers in World of Warcraft sense and tanks, they're much, rare, so they get into queues much quicker. So this should come as no shock. Anyway, this created longer queue times, and one of the things we considered was, what if we tried to make the team composition closer to the actual ratio of players by role? If that did work out, people would be waiting less, playing more, so it behooved us actually. I haven't seen that word for a long time. Behooved, oh my god. Just to actually try it. Okay, well, yeah, okay, fine. That's the reasoning why they want to introduce triple damage on the experimental card. Jeff says, with 3 damage players, it opened team compositions that we weren't really seeing in the current game. We've seen compositions with 2 flanking characters like Genji and Tracer supported by aggressive tanks. So he's talking about dive comp there. We've also seen compositions with 2 snipers like Widowmaker and Hanzo with a more defensive playstyle. Now, you might end up with 2 snipers, but also have a flanker. So the game really plays differently. It's a lot more chaotic, a lot more action-based. All right, well, Jeff has spoke about this in the past, about wanting to maybe make Overwatch a bit more FPS-y, so a bit more almost chaotic, more like an arena style shooter where there's a lot of moving parts going on, less formulaic, which it kind of is right now, where you get together in a group, you push forward, you attack a point, you either win or lose the fight, you regroup and you go again. That's the ideal point. This though, with 3 DPS, well, you could just have Tracer in the back line constantly, Widowmaker on the flank sniping, Hanzo doing whatever, or like you could have Genji, Doomfist and Tracer all on like a massive backline dive on their own. They don't even have to play with the team. I mean, that is completely radical. That is not the Overwatch we've been playing for the last 4 years. Jeff goes on to say, it polarized the dev team. People tended to either hate it or be intrigued by it. But most people were cautiously optimistic, like, oh yeah, this could really be interesting. But then we had people staunchly opposed to it who said, this is so different, it puts too much pressure on the tank player and the game feels too lethal. And oh my god, the tank player is going to be absolutely under a microscope in this comp. If you're playing Reinhardt, you're the only tank. I mean, you can almost feel this right now. So if you play Reinhardt, or you play Winston, or any barrier tank, okay, like Larissa, and your other tank is a Roadhog, you feel like you're on your own. Because Roadhog's just a fat DPS at the end of the day. He's not really a tank, is he? In the sense of like he protects the team. So if you're playing that on live right now, you kind of feel a bit like, oh, everything's on me. So if you miss a shatter, or if you don't block the enemy Reinhardt shatter, or you just, I don't know, block a D.Va bomb with your barrier as it comes in, or like countercharge the enemy Reinhardt, things like that, it really shows, and your team will see it, and they'll be like, oh my god, what's our tank doing? And these moments are just going to be amplified in triple damage, because there will only ever be one tank. So if the tank plays bad, you're under a microscope, right? You can't hide. And maybe, you know, tank players want to take the front line and sort of be out there. But I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how that manifests. I mean, for me personally, I don't think I'm necessarily worried. I think I'd thrive off the fact that, yes, I am the tank. So, all right, guys, let's go. If I make a mistake, it's my fault. But would that mean I play less tank in the long run because it's maybe too stressful to play? It's going to be really interesting to check this out. I can't wait to play this later on today. Jeff then says, the biggest question was, what happens to Roadhog, D.Va, and Zarya? When we created our tanks, we didn't think of any as off tanks. In fact, we had anticipated people playing with only one tank. That's much of how early Overwatch was played. If you ever jumped into quick play before roll queue, you'd know that having one tank was a luxury. But the way that players settled into 2-2-2, Zarya, D.Va and Roadhog are exclusively considered off tanks. As part of this experiment, we've retuned those 3 to be main tanks, including giving Roadhog a new ability. Now, when he uses Take a Breather, he gets a gas cloud around him that mitigates damage for everybody in the area and heals him. Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a lot of things going on here with this comment. Now remember, this isn't on the live servers. This isn't like in the game. This is just on the experimental card, which is on the live servers. That's where I think a lot of people are getting confused. But this is the devs showing us their experiments and what they're looking at doing, right? And of course, if they get good feedback, then maybe they ultimately introduce this actually into the game. So there's the problem I see straight away, and I guess this is more like a pro gamer problem, but really at the end of the day, I don't know, this will affect Roadhog, D.Va and Zarya players. If you play those heroes, you play them a certain way, you've played them for years as an off tank. Suddenly, this system is saying, no, these are main tanks now. Now, an off tank is radically different to a main tank. I am a main tank player. I am not an off tank player. So I don't go around and play loads of Zarya, loads of D.Va and loads of Roadhog. In fact, I'm so much better on the main tanks than the off tanks. It's a bit of a joke, right? I can play the off tanks, but not as good. If you make the main tanks, then suddenly I'm like, oh, cool, I'm a main tank, it doesn't matter. What happens to all these off tank players? What happens to these professional players who've played for years and years and years that are in Overwatch League teams and all of that are D.Va specialists and Zarya specialists and Roadhog? I mean, we're seeing a lot of D.Va right now in Overwatch League. Well, I mean, they would just be redundant. They need to learn main tank or go away. Now, that's at the pro level. But for us, it's just mere mortals. It's the same thing, right? If you're a Roadhog, D.Va or Zarya player, in this world, well, you're not a Roadhog, D.Va or Zarya anymore. You're a main tank, and they'll play completely differently. I mean, look at Roadhog. If he's got a gas cloud that appears around him when he uses Take a Breather, well, that completely changes his playstyle. No longer is he going to be a flanking off tank, because normally you'd see Roadhog, you go on the flanks, right? Try and get a cheeky hook, try and get a kill. That's the way you play him on ladder. Or you're sitting on the front line, burning down barriers, and then trying to get a cheeky hook in. Here, you would be with your team all the time because you're going to need to emit your gas cloud to protect everybody. And if you don't do that, well, then you're not playing the main tank role. So if you're on the flank doing your gas cloud, it's going to be terrible because you're not actually protecting your team. All of your team are going to die because you're the only tank. It's so interesting. Now, also, I can't wait to see what they've done to D.Va and ZARYA to make them more tanky. I mean, I guess with ZARYA, they might make her use more bubbles, maybe. D.Va, maybe she can project a physical barrier, like a shield, maybe, instead of defense matrix. I don't know. Going to be interesting to see what they've done. Now, just to reaffirm the point that these are not going into the live game, this is what they say. So Jeff says, some heroes will be completely rebalanced, but those changes only pertain to triple damage. If we stay with 222, we are going to jettison those changes. So 100% confirmation there that you're not going to ever see a Roadhog with the gas cloud mitigation ability in 222 because he would just be broke. Heiberg says, yeah, the Roadhog would just be broken in 222. And Jeff says, you'd see him in every match, which I think is pretty interesting because that might actually, that little bit of text there, you'd see him in every match. It might mean, you know, that's their classification for a broken hero. You see it in every game. Is that how they're going forward, updating the game and balancing the game now? If a hero is in every game, are they going to get rid of him? Well, the answer to that, guys, is yeah, because that's what hero bans are about. At Overwatch League level, if a hero's got over 10% usage, they possibly could be banned. And we don't, I mean, we know the devs, when it comes to the main game, are just going to remove heroes from rotation as they desire. But I'd assume they'll do the same thing. If the heroes are played a lot, then they'll just remove them from rotation, forcing different heroes to be played. Interesting stuff. Now, this is a bit of tidbit of information, which actually I really like here. So check this out. Jeff says, when we make balance changes, they have to go to the PTR, the public test region. While they're on PTR, we're also going through the console certification process for Sony, Microsoft, and now Nintendo. On average, that takes a week, and that doesn't include testing or deploying, so it can be a long process. To change the damage of McCree's gun by 1 point takes longer than players think. Then, from a balancing standpoint, we also want to live with those changes for a while before making our next round. So, it ended up putting us on an almost bi-monthly balance schedule, just by the nature of the process. If you asked any designer on the Overwatch team what are the top 10 features you want, one of the things they'd say would be the ability to immediately change things and be much more responsive to balance requests. This is great because this is Jeff explaining categorically why balance updates were historically slow for Overwatch because of the system they had in place, and now they have changed this system because they can make balance changes much quicker with the experimental system, because effectively all they're doing is changing a few numbers. It's not a completely new client download, I presume, when it gets pushed to live. You know, imagine if they've got changes on the experimental card and it's just bumping a couple of, you know, bits and pieces here and there. I'm sure they can just push that straight to live without any update, like major update or console certification having to be made. Also, Jeff gives us another beautiful bit of information here. Now, this is on the idea that DPS is just better to play. And this makes sense. And to see this from Jeff, you know, this has been something that it's very hard for me to talk about this because I feel like DPS is a much more rewarding role for me personally. But I don't want to go out and say, oh yeah, DPS is just a better role to play, because I also enjoy tanks and supports, right? They've all kind of got their own flavor going on, their own sort of angle when it comes to Overwatch. But for you guys out there, like, you know, if I come out and say, oh yeah, DPS is better, then it sort of just alienate you if you're just a tank player. And I don't really want to say that because I don't think it's necessarily true. Anyway, let's take a look at what Jeff says. There are a lot of different reasons. One is simply that there are more damage heroes to choose from than tanks right now. I also think the reward mechanisms in the game are skewed towards damage. And this was the part I read and I'm like, oh yes, thank you for saying this, because it is, right? And listen to what Jeff says. If you think about all of the visceral feedback you get from a kill, we light up the kill feed, you get an elimination message. There's a very satisfying sound. We don't quite do the same level of diligence when it comes to things like how much damage did you block, or did you save somebody from dying by healing them at the right time? And that's on us. This is something we need to fix over time. Now, this might be an admission that this kind of stuff is going to change for Overwatch 2 and not necessarily in Overwatch right now. But it's true. This is absolutely true. When Genji, you know, Genji rips out his blade, Genji gets nanoed, Genji kills 4 of your team. The kill feed is just Genji, 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 Genji. That Genji player is feeling, oh my god, he's on top of the world, yeah? What about the Ana that just gave him Nano? She just let him do that, really. But she doesn't really get much. She's like, oh, I use Nano, that's great. Yes, the all-enemy team is dead. And now, also, Genji Blade is one of those ultimates where it is, I don't want to say easy, but you can get that moment a lot when you pop it. What about I don't know. I mean, this is where the comparison kind of breaks down in my mind, because when you land a fat shatter on Reinhardt, personally, I feel like, oh, yeah, that's great. Everyone's knocked on the ground. It's not like the kill feed's getting lit up, but you can see everyone get knocked down. And there is that moment, that visual moment, like, wow, look at that massive shatter. So you kind of do get it. But I understand that when you look at all of the DPS and you look at the tanks and the supports, DPS on the whole just does feel better to play because you're getting a lot of feedback from the game. It's like, great shot. You've killed this person, elimination, blah, blah, blah. All of this popping up all of the time. So I think I agree with that. All right, guys, I'm going to leave this video at that. This is very interesting. I love stuff like this when the devs make posts and go into a bit more detail, because it lets us get into their train of thought, into their minds, and sort of work out where they want to take Overwatch. And I think that's just completely invaluable information. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a long one, it feels like. Maybe it isn't, I don't know. I'm kind of getting carried away. But there's a lot of stuff to cover here. All right, guys, thank you for watching the video. If you want to see more stuff like this in the future, then remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell when you do so, and like the video. That helps an absolute ton. And leave a comment below with what you think could, well, possibly happen to D.Va and Zarya when it comes to changes, turning them into a main tank. All right, guys, catch you on the next one. Toodaloo.